So this show coverage would not have been possible without my sponsor, headphones.com. If you want to check out anything headphone related, I would highly recommend checking the link out down below. They offer a ton of great products, a great customer support, awesome return policy. They're a really high quality store. And it was a lot of fun to meet a lot of their staff over at this event. Now this was Socal Camjam, and there was a lot of cool stuff there. I want to give you the highlights. I tried DMS's new headphone over at the headphones booth. I definitely wish that I had more time with this. It seemingly was tuned for neutrality first and had a little bit of fun characteristics here and there, really good sound staging coverage. And he definitely seemed to have a very clear vision of what he wanted this to sound like and feel like. Now, to be honest, I do have some small concerns about build quality here. Specifically, the cups swivel a little bit too easily. It feels a little bit loose. I wish this is a little bit tighter of a tolerance. But one of the goals that he was specifically seeking was an ultralight headphone. And for that, I think he nailed it. Headphone, HEDD phone, has a version 2 of their second headphone, the V2. Now the V2, in my review, I tore that thing apart, and the creator of headphone came up to me at the show and was really interested in getting my feedback on the new G2. And he was purely focused on fixing the issues of Gen 1 of the V2. And he changed a lot coming out of the sound signature. A lot of the issues I had with the first one, I did not have issues with in the second one. They gained a bit of a bass bump. The treble seemed a little bit more alive than what I remember it being. And it was hard to tell in the mid-range without a back and forth. But as far as memory serves, it felt like a vast improvement over the version 1, which was great to see. I love when manufacturers are willing to improve and accept feedback. That's super, honestly, rare and awesome to see. Continuing at the headphones booth was one of the main attractors of the show, which this guy Pud, that's what he goes by, his real name is Phil. And he made all of these super strange kind of artistic headphones. They're not available on a website to purchase, and they all have some ridiculous component to them, and they are made to serve a certain purpose. I'll let you kind of listen to him as to why. But these things were on everyone's head. They had this massive interest. They were right next to the front door when you walk in. And the old Thumpy, the main attractor, the biggest looking headphone, this ridiculous kind of Canon looking device, it was never not on someone's head. And regarding what I asked Pud, I just had one question. Just why?
Hi, I'm Pud Philip. I make unconventional headphones. So I've been into headphones for a while. I've always been fascinated by it, and I came up with an idea for a real headphone, like a real headphone I wanted to make. Started experimenting with different acoustic phenomena kind of that I wanted to test. So I learned CAD and got a 3D printer. Even though all the headphones look super weird, they all are testing some specific thing. So for example, these, which I call the Mic headphones, the challenge that headphone designers have to deal with a lot is the back wave. So of course a headphone driver makes just as much sound from the front as it does from the back. Yeah. And dealing with the back wave is a complicated thing, which is why we have open back headphones and stuff like that. But my thought was if you put diffusers behind to sort of scatter the back wave, could you have a sort of a semi-closed headphone and still not have like a lot of reflections from the back wave, which would interfere with the front wave and you get messed up sound. And it kind of works. And then the other thought was now these are prop French fries that are not real, but I've tested it with real French fries because the speed of sound, like the speed of light, is faster when it's heated, which is like when you look at a campfire and everything's kind of blurry behind it. It's because the speed of light is messing with you because of the heat. So the thought was, would having heated diffusers. Anyway, that's how the French fries happen.
I didn't know they came out. That is hilarious. Yeah. These are surprisingly realistic.
They're so real looking.
They
make me hungry every time.
Amazing.
This is a 60 hertz Helmholtz resonator, which means that you just get a ton of bass. And I took 100 ohm resistors and put it in the cable because the drivers that I'm using change. The frequency response changes a lot when there's more resistance. They're 32 ohm drivers, but now I guess they're, I don't know, I'm not an electrical engineer, but 132 ohms, I don't know how all that works. But what it ends up doing is boosting a ton around 90 hertz. And plus you have the 60 hertz from this, and you just get this crazy, like, if you listen to some music that has like crazy, like synthetic a bass, like a trap song or an EDM song or maybe a hip hop song. I'm not exaggerating that your teeth will rattle. Like when you put this on, like the whole thing shakes and it's crazy. Yeah, I have a channel now that's it's Pud667. So my username on YouTube is Pud667.
I'll drop a link down below. Now that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy that guy. He's kind of a riot. There was something called a Warwick Appario, which was a Golden Sound and Warwick collaboration. And this is sort of an HE1 competitor coming in a little bit cheaper even, at only a reasonable $40,000 instead of the 60 that the HE1 is. And this is honestly very good. But I think what kind of stole the show is they just had this super smart idea to use an enclosed booth. And if you've never been to an audio trade show, one of the most frustrating things about it is sometimes it's really hard to hear the headphones. Like, you can listen to them, you can get show impressions, but show impressions are often very different from listening impressions back at home in a quiet environment. But I just kind of want to take this time to recommend that other manufacturers really consider maybe using a booth like this. It doesn't have to be the super ultra nice one, but something to kind of silence the crowd, maybe like a little foam walls to kind of block out some of the extra sound so you can actually listen to the device. It leveled up the experience on top of being a really good headphone a lot. And they didn't have to rent a private room. There were a couple manufacturers, like the HE1 was in a private room. The Carbon 2 from Odyssey was in a private room. I got to go and listen to that. So yeah, the Appario, honestly, super good. I have almost no complaints. I think if I had it for longer, I could pick out things I didn't like about it. But the sound staging, the dynamic slam for the bass response, the centering and the focus of voices was exceptional. It still has a little bit of a neutral tuning through the mid-range, and the top end reminds me a lot of the Bravura, which is a cheaper, cheaper than that electrostatic system also offered by Warwick. And there's a lot of crossover between those. And it's got that very clean approach to the mid-range and the top end. I feel like one of the biggest things that you gain is a bit more headroom for sure. And it felt way more dynamic and capable in the bass response. And granted, these are just show impressions, but this is probably the best electrostatic bass I've ever heard. Now, how that compares to the best planar bass, I'd say a planar still probably beats it. But if you're into an electrostatic system, especially on the high end, even the HE1, I don't remember having as good a bass as this did. Of course, I spent more time with the HE1 and less time with the Appario. Could have just been the song, who knows? But yeah, I think both Golden Sound and Appario did a great job of tuning that and making it sound really, really good. Hard to justify the price tag, but I know that they're really expensive to produce. Now I'll loop back again to some headphones, but on the amplifier end, there were a couple of amplifiers that I really, really enjoyed. I stopped off in the Abyss room, and luckily for me, I have this really extensive listening history with all the headphones that they had available. So I know what everything sounds like. So hearing it on new amplifiers, I was able to isolate a little bit better, and they're in their own private kind of like room that was quieter than the showroom. So I feel like I actually got a decent impression. And the DCS amplifier that they had in there was phenomenal. It was super great. As far as the solid state sound goes, that might be one of the best amplifiers I've ever heard those headphones on. It was insane. Another amplifier company that I had unfortunately never gotten a chance to hear before was from Amps & Sound. These are also definitely a luxury brand. They're ultra expensive, but they have a lower end amp called the Mogwai that I was extremely impressed with. And that one's a more reasonable, attainable, high-end tube amplifier. And for amplifiers, that actually may have been the star of the show, and I'll tell you why. I don't like HC800S. It's no secret. I think it's got some benefits to the sound quality, but in general, like the tuning style, the general sound of it is just not really for me. And yet, on that amplifier, I actually straight up enjoyed the HD800S. I also got to hear a 1266 on it, and it can do planars and dynamics alike. That amplifier is just insanely good. One of the things that it did with the 800S, rather than focusing on kind of like top end details and top end precision, which it had, but the focus was more on filling out the mid-range. So the headphones sounded way less kind of empty and hollow and a lot more full. And of course the bass was brought up and stuff, and the syrupiness of the top end was introduced from the tubes and actually displayed really well on the headphone. In fact, so much so that I actually actively want a Mogwai and an 800S together. Like, I actually want that system now. They were super impressive. The owner, Justin's a great guy. We talked to him a lot that week about his amplifiers, and he has this excellent overbuilt quality to his amps, and they were definitely standouts of the show for sure. Some other highlights, I finally got to try the Modhouse Tungsten. I've talked to Ryan, the owner and builder of these headphones, for years about this headphone, like literally years at this point, or very early stages before he even really had much of a prototype going, through driver revisions, driver changes, all that fun stuff. There's a single-sided magnet version and a double-sided magnet version. I got to hear the double-sided only at the show. And he wasn't actually there. They were just kind of customers, and some other brands had them as example headphones. And boy, these are great headphones. I need to spend some more time with them. It's one of those headphones that hits you with a very clear sense of good sound right off the bat. You don't have to search for its hidden sound characteristics. You don't have to search for its features. It just kind of hits you with everything it's got right at once. And you can just tell that it's a super precise, really just good sounding headphone. A lot of completeness in the mid-range. The top end felt super crispy and fast, and the low end felt really nice. The Abyss headphones were obviously great. I think I'm used to them right now. So like, you know, it's kind of a sound I'm familiar with, but if you ever get a chance to stop off and listen to those headphones, they're really, really good, and would highly recommend doing that. I stopped off the ZMF Room, and it was always slammed in there. And they have a ton of different stuff in there. I love the way that they have the room set up where there's kind of just racks of stuff that you can try, and tons of different amplifiers ranging from solid state stuff to tube stuff. And it's kind of like a free-for-all in there in a sort of way. And you get a ton of different listening impressions from a ton of different headphones. And of course, they had some really beautiful examples as well. And honestly, of the people I talked to, some just ridiculously loyal fans, just people who are just absolute diehards for ZMF, which is always cool to see. Hopping back over to Stax, they have I think it's called the X9000. It's their new round flagship electrostatic headphone. That was another just really good first impressions for me. It was a little bright above 10K, like in the ultra high frequencies, but not fatiguing. It felt fast. It felt resolving. And I think that highlighted areas of sound that a lot of other headphones out there weren't quite doing. I think I have a review unit coming, and honestly, I'm super excited for that review. I felt that was a really excellent headphone. I did not try their new $500 entry-level electrostatic, but I'm hoping to get that one for a review as well. So I'm really curious about how that one turned out. Another very good, but very expensive amplifier was the new WA24. This is Woo Audio's new flagship. And basically they integrated the power supply from the WA23 that was separate into one kind of thicker, chunkier amplifier. And it did sound really, really good. Of course, I say this with everything. I'd want to listen more here and especially compare if possible, but that's asking a lot. Those are really high-end amps. The new 105 headphone from Meze, which is sort of going to be priced and apparently sound in between the 99 Classics and the 109 Pros. The Boca Open from ZMF, it sounded good, but it was kind of hard to tell in that room. It was really hard to tell just how good it was. With the closed back versions at the show, they kind of benefit from being closed back, so they actually sound really good at a show. Whereas a lot of open back headphones, you have all this flood of noise coming in, and you can't really tell as easily. But it did seem like good first impressions to me. I stopped off at the Oppos booth and met those guys. They were really, really nice. We had a few actually pretty long conversations about just the industry, just shooting the shit. It was a lot of fun. And they were showing off that AudioTechnica gaming headphone, the R70X Refine, which I still think is a huge sleeper in the industry. It's very good. Now, there were a few stinkers in the listening impressions. The new AudioTechnica headphone, I think it's something A3000, something 3000. They got this kind of rounded dome grill, and that headphone was freaking terrible. Like, it was so ridiculously bright, it was almost a meme. It was not good at all. Old Thumpy sounded better, legitimately, despite what you would think. It actually wasn't as bad as you'd actually expect. It's not as bad as you would think. Yeah. Right? It's like actually reasonable. I think it was a brand called T&A, which I've never heard a product from, but they were also terrible. They had this driver tech that they referred to as, I think it was planar magnetostatic, and they should abandon that immediately because sheesh, ultra bright, not even ultra resolving. Like it was just so bright. It felt like crashing pots and pans on my head. It was just terrible, terrible time. I think the brand is called Metaxas and Sins or something like that. This wasn't a bad product and it sounded really great actually, but I don't think that it quite got the attention for the reason they think it got the attention. And they had these two electrostatic amplifiers that were really, really cool looking, but they had one feature that seemed to dominate everybody's conversation behind the scenes about it. And they're CNC'd aluminum. I think the guy said that they were like 75 pounds a piece. On one of them, there was like this real unique clock in the face, and said that was like an optional thing. And these things were actually kind of sick. And they were expensive though. They were like $29,000 a piece, I think. And then they had the reel-to-reel there that I think was like around $50,000. And in person, they actually look awesome. They had this insanely appealing appearance, to be honest. But whenever I talked to anybody about it, the thing that they couldn't shake, and like the thing that they thought was the most important thing, was not the build, not the looks, not the sound. It was the fact that they had the volume dials on the nipples. And like, I actually agree. It's kind of a funny design, and it was cool, and it was great sounding, honestly. I don't know about $29,000 great, but it was just funny because everybody, instead of talking about what they should have been talking about, was focused on that design choice. And yeah, but it was cool to listen to them. Yeah, overall, this event was a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff I didn't get a chance to talk about here, but it was good. Didn't quite make the cut. Wasn't interesting enough, something like that. Yeah, the event itself was a lot of fun. I think the biggest takeaway from these events, if you've never been to one, is to go and try to make friends, because friends make the event so much better. It was so cool to talk and meet some of the reviewers that I kind of coexist in this community with. There were reviewers who came up to me and said that they had started reviewing because of my channel. Tons of people came up to me and said hello, and that they liked the channel, loved the content, etc. And everybody was super, super nice. But having like a friend group that can, you can joke around with, go and get dinner with, go and hang out with, and just kind of experience the show, kind of shoot ideas back and forth with. But yeah, if you can bring a friend or kind of meet friends at these events, that is 100% the way to do it, and how I'd recommend it. I heard some great stuff, met some great people. It was a really fun event. You can find links to the sponsor who made it possible for me to go out there, headphones.com. I had so much fun meeting those guys. There are truly a lot of good people behind the scenes of that company, and I really enjoy working with them. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time. Bye.